So today is Wednesday, the 28th of January 2025. I mean 2026, pardon me. Good morning, Mr. Michael. Okay. All right, everybody can hear me loud and clear now. So let's check out what the market has in store for us today. As usual, we'll look at the fundamentals, then we'll check the technicals. But then by and large, the month of January, is as good as almost ending. I mean, we have just 2 days, two trading days, tomorrow, Friday. By next week, Tuesday, by next week, Monday, we'll already have crossed over to February. I mean, looks like January has been a very fast month. So looking at the fundamentals, I mentioned on Monday that we were going to have CPI from Australia, 1:30 a.m. this morning, early in the morning Nigerian time. We can call it late in the night. Hey, Happy New Year, Pastor David. Is today your first time on the platform this year, sir? If that's so, you're welcome. Madam Manaji, good morning to you, man. All right, so the CPI was released in the course of the night here in Nigeria, 1:30 a.m. and the data came out largely good for the Australian dollar. And the next event will come up today by 3:45 p.m. That's the Bank of Canada monetary policy report, Bank of Canada rate statement, and overnight rate. So Canadian dollar is going to experience some volatility due to these three events, which will be released simultaneously by 3:45. But the benefit is that between now and 3:45, the market is free to move technically. So we have an open access to trade pure technicals between now and 3:45 p.m. Also by 4:30 p.m., there'll be Bank of Canada press conference to see impact upon the Canadian dollar. Then later tonight by 8 p.m., there'll be Federal Funds Rate FOMC statement. Now, FOMC is a major fundamental event in the forex market because it talks about interest rates in the United States. Other countries call it interest rate, some call it cash rate, but the United States calls it FOMC, Federal Open Market Committee. That's a committee that oversees the interest rates in the United States, whether there's going to be a hike in interest rate, that's an increase, or a cut, that's a reduction. So we're going to be getting interest rates news tonight by 8 p.m. It's usually very volatile, but then it's 8 p.m. So if you're interested, you may just check out what really happens in the market at that time. So those are the basic, fundamental events we're expecting today, and I'll show you a couple of technical setup that may align with, especially with the one on the Bank of Canada, rate statement. That's two instruments which I'm looking at today. I'll show you that as we start the analysis. So I'll switch over now. Aside all this, there's nothing much on the fundamentals. So we'll just go to the chart and we'll read what is possibly coming up in the market today. Now, the market is quite unstable at this period, because a lot of instruments are just not aligning, but then I spotted three setup, two of them still has to do with the Canadian dollar, and let me just show you what my outlook is on this instrument. All right, I'm looking at the AUD card. Actually, AUD card, GAV card, Euro card, they seem to have the same outlook, but I'm sticking with the AUD card. All right, now this is the AUD card on the 1 hour time frame, and let's go first to the daily, weekly. All right, on the weekly time frame, price actually is trading right on a resistance level, a resistance zone. You can see it right there. This is resistance. This is price hitting that resistance the second time. Technically, we're expecting, some reversal to the downside. And if we flip down to 1 hour, we can see there is a rejection candle here pointing us to that bearish potential which we saw on the weekly. So technically, we're looking for a downside movement on a UD card, and we can also still draw our trend line. So we're anticipating a breakout below the trend line for a sell. We can still try to draw another trend line at the back to form a rising wedge. So if price breaks out below this, lower trend line with RSI clearly below 50, it will be a time to trigger a sell on the AUD card. Now, this may happen before the release of the data in the afternoon by 3:45 p.m. thereabout. Let me confirm the time again. That's yeah, 3:45 p.m. So if it happens before that time, you are free to trigger a sell on the AUD card. That means that our outlook for that news is that the data from the rate statement from Canada may come out good for the Canadian dollar. If it comes out good for the Canadian dollar, that means that instruments like CAD JPY, CAD CHF may go bullish, while this AUD card will bearish, because in this instance, the Canadian dollar is a quote currency, not the base currency. So I'm bearish on the AED card ahead of the news in the afternoon. But like I said, even if it triggers before the news, you're free to take a sell. And peradventure you miss that, sell before the release of the news, then wait for the news by 3:45. If the data comes out in line with our expectation, if it comes out good, that is all green. And let me flip back to the Forex Factory so that I can explain that better. All right. So if by 3:45 p.m., the data from Canada, now rate statement is a speech. This policy report is, these are speeches, but this overnight rate will come out with a data. Now, we have the data coming out here. The previous is 2.25%, the forecast is 2.25%. If the actual is greater, if the actual is above 2.25, that means we're expecting a bullish movement on the Canadian dollar. And that means that we will be able to sell our AUD card. But if on the other hand, the data comes out bad, that is actual less than forecast, less than 2.25%, then the Canadian dollar will sell and the card AUD card will buy. Now, another possible scenario is that the actual may come out equal to the forecast. Now, previous is 2.25, forecast is 2.25. Actual may maintain also 2.25. Now, usually when the actual comes out equal to the forecast, generally we may say you should stay out, because sometimes market may become unstable. But recent findings show that it's also possible at that instance that this instrument they might decide to sell, that is CAD JPY or CAD generally, may turn bearish if actual equals to forecast, and that may mean that an instrument like AED card may go bullish instead of bearish. So what I will advise is this: if the data comes out actual less than forecast or actual equal to forecast, just hold on AED card, watch the market and see what happens first. Don't just jump into a trade. The best scenario is if actual comes out greater than forecast, you can sell immediately. But if it comes out actual less than forecast or actual equal to forecast, just wait and see what happens. See market reaction, because at that instance, price may just jump up, but then wait till there's a clear breakout downwards, very, very clear breakout downwards before you trigger a sell. Ultimately, we're bearish on the AUD card. All right, so the other instrument I'm looking at today is the NZD USD. The NZD USD. Now, this is NZD USD on the daily time frame. Again, price closed last night on a resistance level. So technically, we're looking out for a possibly bearish movement on the NZD USD today. So we can flip down to 1 hour time frame, and we can draw a trend line and a second one to form a rising wedge pattern. Is rising wedge really compulsory? Of course, if it's available, if you can draw it, fine. If you can't, just the trend line in front it also suffices. All what we're waiting out for is a breakout, to the downside. But the rising wedge just gives us additional information, because a rising wedge is actually a bearish reversal pattern. So if you find it, all well and good. If you don't find it, yeah, no big deal. We're only looking out for how to make that setup as high probability as possible. All right, so we have a resistance on the daily and a rising wedge on 1 hour, and we'll be waiting out today for a breakout to the downside on the NZD-USD. Don't forget our final confirmation should be RSI below 50. So if price breaks out below the lower trend line and RSI crosses below 50, and possibly if MACD crosses below zero, it's not compulsory, but if at all it crosses, that gives additional confirmation, of a bearish movement on the NZD-USD. So we're bearish on the NZD-USD today. Now, people have been asking about gold, 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 and I've been saying trade gold with a lot of caution. Overall movement on gold is still bullish, though sometimes it experiences retracement, like it happened yesterday, and many thought maybe the reversal, on gold is starting. Gold is unpredictable. Trade it only if you have large equity that can withstand, the market reaction. Because sometimes it retraces and the next thing it goes up. And if you're already placing a sell at the time of retracement and it reverses into a buy, if you don't have sufficient liquidity, your account could get wiped out. So please trade gold with a lot of caution. If at all you want to trade gold, which is what I've maintained, it's better to look out for more of buying positions, when price breaks out and makes a new high. Like what happened yesterday, price actually hit a resistance here, and there was that thought that there would be a breakout, possibly a double top and a breakout, but then it decided to, a double top was forming here, but the moment it didn't break out, below the lower trend line to complete the double top, what happened? It went back to the upside. So trade it with caution. If at this point it decides to range again, wait for the break above to buy. For now, as much as possible, avoid selling gold. As much as possible, avoid selling gold. All right, that'll be all from my end this morning. Like I said, the market is really, really in a quiet state. Just a few setup here and there. If you have any question, you can go ahead and type in the comment section, and I'm right here to respond to you. All right, so while we're waiting for questions, we're going to be having a webinar on Friday. It's going to be an auto chartist webinar, using advanced trading strategies. The flyers will be out possibly today. Make sure you attend that webinar. It's going to be on Friday by 4 p.m. Just watch out in your group, the group you belong to, for the link to that webinar. Mr. Collins Anyanwu, you're asking me to check Euro USD, GBP USD, Madam Onaji USD, JPY. Okay, let's check. Now, the week started with the dollar being very, very weak. We started with a very weak dollar for the week in terms of sentiment. And, markets just, that means pairs like Euro USD, GBP USD, AED USD, they've been in a massive uptrend in the last 3 days since Monday. And Euro USD, as you can see, I mean, has gone up so massive. In fact, the movement started last week. I remember the analysis I did on Euro USD last week where I said we were to see a breakout to the upside from here, and that's last week, Monday. So far since that analysis, Euro USD has gone as high as over 400 pips. Now, is the bullish movement over? Well, let's check. Currently, I can't see any resistance. I can't see any resistance in view. This is the monthly time frame, and price is still very, very far, from the monthly time frame. So this is the weekly. And also don't forget there's FOMC tonight. FOMC actually will determine the cost of dollar. So possibly I will advise you, don't bother trading any major currency pair today because of the FOMC that's coming up. Is any day you have major news events like FOMC, NFP, the dollar will not react well in the market the whole of that day. But the market will be waiting for the release of that data. So if you are not on any dollar-based trade, I will advise you just stay out today, pending the outcome of the FOMC. But then technically, I'm not seeing any setup on Euro USD at the moment, except if price will still go up to hit this resistance before falling backwards. So nothing on Euro USD at the moment. And for GBP USD, we're having something similar. So the next resistance level is actually on the monthly time frame, and price is still very far away from it also. Still some 375 pips, so nothing at the moment. All this can still be influenced by the FOMC. FOMC can make it either go up or come down. So that's why I said for now, all these pairs that dollar related, just avoid them, until after the FOMC, which comes up 8 p.m. tonight. Now for USDJPY, I remember clearly telling us that we were expecting the bearish breakout on this instrument last week, and we saw the whole of last week it was selling, and selling has continued this week also. That's a weekly time frame. So we go down to the daily. For this also, there's no clear support in view from where we can look out for reversals. This is not a strong support, so I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't bother about it. So please just stay out of the major currency pairs. That's all I can say for now. All right, Bankole Kayode is asking me to check AUDCHF. So let's look out for AUDCHF.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
God bless you.
You're welcome. All right, so this is AUDCHF. Let me start from the weekly. Okay, so on the weekly time frame, we have an overall bearish downtrend. I think I mentioned this instrument at the beginning of the week. We have some lower high, and price is back to that lower high. So we have a downward movement, then a support turned resistance. So this region here becomes a confluence where the trend line and the support on resistance meet, and the candle of last week closed as, I think, as a rejection candle. Yeah, so this is a rejection candle. So technically we still look for a downward movement on the AUDCHF. All right, so let's check it out on the lower time frame. Let's go to the daily. Okay, so there was a slight movement downwards to close last week. That's the rejection candle on the weekly down there. 4 hour. Okay, I think I want to end at the 4 hour since it's a swing setup. So overall, we're bearish, but at the moment, that's the lower trend line. This is the upper trend line. Price bounced higher low, higher low, higher low. Okay, we're experiencing a bounce currently, but ultimately, I'm still expecting price to reverse downwards. Because from the weekly, everything is trimming bearish from the trend line to this support turn resistance, to the rejection candle, everything is bearish. But then we're having a rising wedge on the 4 hour, which is actually a bearish reversal pattern. What we're waiting for now is price to break out below the lower trend line. So it's a swing setup. RSI is clearly below 50 and MACD has crossed below zero. So just some patience, to see a reversal that will break out. So we're still very much bearish on the AUDCHF. Just wait for a new candle to break out below, that lower trend line, and from there we'll see the movement downwards. So we're bearish on the AUDCHF. All right, Mr. Collins, analyze GBP AUD. So this is the weekly time frame, and the price is actually not touching the support. Okay, so let me go back. We have a valid support. By key level here, you have it as resistance, then as support here. But on this side, I'm not seeing it touching yet to look for a reversal. But let's go down to daily and see something. 4 hour. Okay, it's trying to form its own support on 4 hour, independent of the weekly. The weekly support is that blue line. Let me still check my trend lines. Okay. All right, so we have an uptrend, upward moving trend line here, you know, and there's a kind of a confluence here, which can trigger a move to the upside with the support turn resistance, sorry, resistance and support on the weekly. All right, I think we might need to ignore that resistance turn support on the weekly and stick with just the trend line and the minor support formed on the 4 hour. Now, this minor support performed on the 4 hour might evolve into a double bottom pattern, which may trigger a move to the upside, making this place here the neckline. So it's a swing setup. So I want that person, Mr. Collins, to watch it closely. If price breaks out above the neckline region, you are free to take a buy on the GBP AUD. Just pay a lot of attention to it because we're having an upward moving trend line from the weekly time frame, and price has hit some higher low, higher low. This is the third higher low. This is acting as a support from where technically we should see a continuation to the bullish direction. So 4 hour just needs to complete it. We already have a valid support on 4 hour, but then that support is also giving us the setup, possibly a double bottom setup. And if this breakout happens, price can go as high. There's a recent high. Price can go as high as about 96. Okay, let's check the first level. That's Fibonacci 38 can give as much as like 40, 44 pips. Fibonacci 50 can give about 97 pips, and Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as 150 pips. So watch out closely for this. It's a swing setup. It can, you know, run through today, tomorrow. But anytime it breaks out, feel free to take a buy once it breaks the neckline region. All right, I think that's the last one. Sir, can you use a rectangle tool on it? On which one, sir? Pastor David, sir, which specific instruments do you want me to use a rectangle tool? I'm waiting, sir. Okay, so, okay, I think I'm seeing the response. The one on weekly. Are you talking about this GBP AUD or which other one? Because the rectangle tool, the support is not really touching, and we don't force these things when it's not too clear. Yeah, on the weekly. Yes, we can only use the rectangle tool if we can see alignment. Like now, if I'm to connect the rectangle tool, it will actually be from around the shadow area. Just a second. It will be from this region and it's not touching. The current price is not really touching it. No, it should be from here. You can see it's the lower part of the shadow. Except if price drops and now breaks out, which is still possible also. Very possible. It's possible. Except price drops to that zone, then now breaks out from it. So if the market decides to do that, definitely it will be valid. So from what you're saying, then if we are still to maintain that side, then price may come to hit this list before breaking out, which is still possible, and which may still give us that double bottom pattern, in an inverted way. Either ways, I still maintain a reversal on this instrument to the upside. Okay, Bankole Euro CHF, that will be the last one I will attend to. Our time is really fast spent. So, Mr. Bankole is asking us to check Euro CHF. There was a breakout last week to the downside from the last week analysis. Okay, okay, we can see that we have lower lows, lower low, lower low, and this week candle, the tip seems to be touching the trend line. So technically, we should be looking out for a move to the upside. We can see the tip of the candle actually touched the trend line from the weekly. All right, this is a 4 hour. Let's go down to 1 hour. Wow, wow, this is amazing. On 1 hour, it's forming an inverse head and shoulder pattern. This will lead, all things being equal, it should lead to a breakout to the upside. So what we're going to wait for now, this could happen in the course of today. Please, I want everybody to watch this particular setup very closely. And thank you to Mr. Bankole for bringing our attention to this. I'm seeing an inverse head and shoulder forming here, which may lead to a breakout to the upside. So what we may need is just price to, break the neckline region, which is this area. So once the new candle opens above this region here, RSI clearly below 50, don't worry about MACD, it may not. You may just, once that setup happens like that, um, one of the key areas price may get to, since it's coming from the weekly time frame, price may get to that first resistance level. And let's check out. That can give as much as 40 pips. Can give as much as 40 pips. Please watch this closely. This is very, very important. It may likely trigger in the course of today. More so, we don't have any fundamental events till 3:45 in the afternoon. Please pay a lot of attention to this particular setup. We're bullish on the Euro CHF. All right, with that, we've come to the end of today's morning analysis. For those who joined us late, we're looking at the AUD card. On 1 hour, we're looking to sell if price breaks out below the lower trend line. And we're looking at the NZD USD. We're also on the sell. We're looking at the sell setup on NZD USD on 1 hour. And I'm also adding this particular Euro CHF because the high probability setup. We're bullish on the Euro CHF on 1 hour. So these are three major instruments we've looked at today. There are going to be two major fundamental events today. There will be rate statement from Canada by 3:45 p.m. and there's FOMC from the United States by 8 p.m. This will lead to volatility on the Canadian dollar by 3:45 and United States dollar by 8 p.m. Please take note of all these events and trade with a lot of caution. For gold, I said gold may continue in an uptrend. Just wait for price to break. Wait for a range and a breakout because that's what it's been doing lately. As much as possible, avoid selling gold for now. And even if you are going to buy, to buy with caution. See, the way gold is these days, you never can tell what may happen. Yeah, whether it's going to be a reversal, but it looks more to be in an uptrend for now. See, so you just trade it with a lot of caution. Price may range here. If we see a range, then wait for a breakout. You can see that's a pattern. That is a pattern lately. It will range and break out. it will range and break out. So it will range, break out, range, break out, range, break out, range, break out. So we can also just follow the pattern. So wait for a range again today and possibly break out to the upside, then buy. And please make sure you have enough liquidity, make sure you have enough capital if you want to trade gold. Otherwise, stay with the currency pairs. Stay with the currency pairs otherwise. All right, so we're ending the analysis session here. Do trade safe, enjoy the day, and bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too, man.
Bye.